House will please come to order. I would like to welcome everybody to the 7th day of session, Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Convening roll call for the 7th day, February 20th, 2024. Alamand?
Yes, present.
Allred? Here. Andrew? Here. Angelos? Here. Banks? Here. Bear? Bear? Bear?
Excused.
Berger?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Burkhart? Byron?
Excused.
Chadwick?
Here.
Chestick?
Here.
Plouston?
Here.
Conrad?
Excused.
Crago?
Here.
Davis?
Aye.
Eklund? Harrelson?
Here.
Harshman?
Excused.
Heiner?
Here.
Henderson?
Excused.
Hornock? Jennings? Knapp? Larson Lloyd?
Excused.
Larson JT? Lawley? Locke?
Excused.
Nyman?
Here.
Newsom? Nicholas?
Excused.
Nemec?
Here.
Northrup?
Excused.
Oakley?
Excused.
Obermuller? O'Hearn?
Here.
Olson? Ottman? Pendergraft? Penn? Provenza? Rodriguez-Williams? Sherwood?
Excused.
Singh? Slagle? Smith? Stith? Storer?
Excused.
Strock?
Excused.
Stivar? Tarver? Trujillo? Walters?
Excused.
Ward? Washut? Western? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Zwanzer Dan?
Excused.
Zwanzer Dave? Speaker Summers?
Here. Chief, let's keep that open. I think we got at least a couple committees out. So with that, I would like to welcome Reverend Bob Thompson from the First Presbyterian Church to do our prayer of the day. Please rise.
Good morning. Our scripture this morning is from Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. It is he that made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Glorious God of all worlds, we come before you at the beginning of a new day with a renewed sense of your calling as representatives. Representatives of the people in Wyoming, but more importantly, as representatives of your kingdom. In 2 Corinthians, you called us to be your ambassadors, appealing for grace and reconciliation in the world through our lives and through our work. Today, Lord, I lift up these women and men, representatives doing the work you have called them to the citizens of this great state of Wyoming. God of grace, as you cause the sun to rise, bringing light into darkness, send the light of your Spirit to dawn in our souls, to dispel any darkness from our being. Give us your grace, and let your love show through our deeds, and may your peace shine in our words. Lord of all creation, as we look around us, we see the abundance of your work. You have provided plenty of resources for all living things. We see the splendor of your world, and in this great state, we are thankful for the beauty that surrounds us. God, guide us as your stewards in our use of all that you have provided, that all people and future generations may enjoy the bounty of your creation. Almighty and righteous God, you call for justice and equity for the people of this world. You call us as your people to support the weak, to help those who suffer, and to honor all people. You have commanded us to live in peace by loving you and loving our neighbors. We remember these words of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me show charity. Where there is error, truth. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is sadness, joy. And where there is darkness, let me bring light. God, fill us with your light. Empower us to reflect your glory to the world. God, we pray for the many places in this world where there is war and strife. We pray for peace, and we pray for the people of those lands. Protect the homes and lives of those who are directly in the conflict. Comfort those who are experiencing the grief and trauma of war. We lift up to you all those who serve this great country in the armed forces, and we pray your protection around them, especially those in the areas of conflict and war. Give them your strength. God, I pray for the work of these representatives today. Give them the peace that only you can give. Give them focused energy, ears to hear and hearts open to your calling. Give them patience and understanding, and guide them in every decision. I pray all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Thompson. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I hope you have a much shorter day.
We're not doing amendments tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
That's good today.
Chief, do we have any of the committees back? I don't think so. I don't think we have appropriations or whatever. I'm gonna move along. And you're gonna finish the roll and we'll just make them catch up. Chris, are you ready? Ready? House will please come to order. Chairman Olson, I think you've got a little introduction to do.
Privilege of the floor.
Please.
All right, it is my distinct honor to introduce your honorary page today, Eden Olson. Eden is 12 years old. She's a 7th grader at Cary Junior High. She's an honor student. She loves spending her time playing her harp. Yes, I said harp. She loves dance. She's in ballet. She plays volleyball for Cary Junior High. She would love to go to the University of Wyoming, as well as she has her eyes set on Vanderbilt University to study medicine and become a pediatrician, and hopefully come back to Wyoming.
Here, here. Chief Clerk, let's wrap up that roll.
Bear,
Excused. Oh, there he is.
Bear, Byron.
Here.
Conrad,
Here.
Harshman,
Excused, and he will be excused for the day.
Henderson, Larson Lloyd, Locke, Nicholas,
Excused.
Northrup, Oakley, Sherwood, Storer, Strock, Walters, Swanser Dan, 60 present, 2 excused.
All right, thank you, Chief Clerk. Journal Committee report.
Your Journal Committee reports that the Journal of February 19th, 2024 has been read and recommends that it be approved. Representatives Chestick and Ward.
The doctor of the day is Travis Bowmangin. I probably butchered that, and Dr. Kellen Clubben. Please welcome. And also Dr. Philip Gard. So we're pretty well covered today. I think after last night, they thought we would need, perhaps some heart attacks might happen today. So thank you, doctors of the day, for coming. And one of them's getting grabbed and hauled over by one of the old bear in the house. And not the bear, but the old bear. So we have a special event today, if I could get your attention. If I could get everybody's attention, particularly if I could get Conrad's attention. Thank you. Representatives joining us this morning is the Wyoming FFA State President Larkin Williams from Lusk. As an FFA state officer, Ms. Williams serves as an ambassador for agriculture and youth leadership. Please help me welcome Larkin Williams to the House. Larkin, please go ahead.
Thank you for helping us celebrate Career and Technical Education Month. Wyoming is the cowboy state. Generations stacked upon generations of pioneer spirit. Pioneers in Wyoming's top industries: agriculture, oil and gas, minerals, and tourism. Myself, my team, and the state officers from FFA, Skills USA, DECA, FBLA, and FCCLA who are present here today are proud to be the future of Wyoming, with a focus on training within our top industries. These institutions have forged our ethic, our resolve, and our spirit, equipping us for future careers that fill the needs of Wyoming and its workforce. I grew up down a dirt road, on a ranch 40 miles from town. I remember my mother saying things like, "Happiness is great love and much service." She would remind us from time to time that those of us who are content are usually those of us who are working. My father was more direct. Once, when I was getting my air back after getting bucked off, he leaned on his saddle horn and he said, "Now get your guts in a bunch and get back on." My parents work hard, and they taught their children to work hard. They began with the end in mind. They were strategically preparing us for life, just like career and technical education programs have prepared us to make Wyoming's workforce stronger and Wyoming stronger. Beginning with the end in mind, we are giving students hands-on opportunities, soft skills, leadership, and a sense of community. We appreciate your leadership in continuing this Wyoming legacy and investing in our generation, and investing, most importantly, in Wyoming. Career and technical education students are your future workforce, your future communities, and your future leaders of Wyoming. Thank you.
Awesome. Probably better go right down there and get congratulated on all this. So if I don't get emotional, which I already am, wow. So I think there were some words said there that really struck a chord. Well, really? And that was, get your guts in a bunch, right? If you get bucked off, we've all been there, right? Whatever part of life you're in. Get back on, and then do it with great love and much service. I think those are words worth thinking about. And with that, that was, by the way, the daughter of former Representative J.D. Williams, who's also here in the House. So, good words. I think Representative Northrup, you have a, and I want to thank Larkin for her words and wish her the best in her academic career. And I think Chairman Northrup is going to get all of these folks to stand up and give them the acknowledgement for being the CTE students of Wyoming. So Chairman Northrup.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So as you know, this week and this month is Wyoming Career Technical Education Month, and this is a great opportunity to be able to recognize all the great CTE programs we have in the state. So I'm going to read a whole list of names off and a whole list of groups off, and then will you please applaud? So here we go. We have the Wyoming Association of Career and Technical Education President, Megan Garnhart. Would you please stand? There you go. And the Public Policy Director, Rob Hill. Skills USA, Lusk High School, Joseph Martinez. Please stand. There you go. Campbell County High School, Brandon Cohn. Pathways Innovation Center, Casper and Rob Hill. And State Officer Team is the State Director. Okay, so FBLA, we have State Officer Team and State Director. So we have the Niobrara County, the Saratoga County, Torrington, Upton, and Glen Rock. As you hear, it's the whole state. So FFA, we have the Wyoming State Officers. Please stand. Their State Advisor, Tracy Broda, please wave. And Bighorn County FFA, Brian Cox. In DECA, we have East and Laramie, Manuel Flores. And FCLA, we have Glen Rock Vice President and the Upton Vice President. Let's give them a warm hand of approval. Thank you.
So CTE students of Wyoming, welcome. And I think, as we all know, it doesn't matter whether they're in these programs now. They may well go to college and do something totally different. But what they'll do is they'll have a great experience while they're in high school. They'll learn things that they'll be able to do their whole lives, and it is very valuable. It's a rounded education. So welcome to Wyoming, and welcome to the Wyoming House. Let's see, do we have any other? Oh, yeah, do we have the Teacher of the Year here already? Yep. All right. So, go right into this. Today we have the privilege of welcoming Wyoming's 2024 Teacher of the Year, John Corbin. Mr. Corbin is a high school social studies teacher at Cody High School and was awarded the John P. L. Bogan Foundation Award for Teaching Excellence in the Advancement of Quality Civics Education. Mr. Corbin believes that student relationships are central to the educational success of his students and pushes them to achieve their best each day. Fellow representatives, please help me welcome this talented educator to the House. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker Summers. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the Wyoming State House of Representatives, distinguished guests, fellow citizens, it's with great respect and humility that I stand before you and speak from the heart of a teacher. Please take a moment. Imagine for me, if you will, your favorite moment with your favorite teacher. Hold on to it for just a minute while I tell you about mine. Margaret Zimbrick was my 3rd and 4th grade teacher. She was also a teacher of the year. On our first day in 3rd grade, we began learning the lines to Cats, Broadway musical. We did so many things that went with Cats. We did art projects, and we memorized amazing literature, and we learned how to read, write, do arithmetic. We learned that everybody was valued, and we learned how to be resilient. I learned so much from Mrs. Embrick. I learned how to be engaged in the classroom. I learned to love learning. On the last day of 4th grade, we took a field trip to her house for games, celebrations, and ice cream sundaes. The impact of a teacher like a Margaret Zimbrick reverberates for years. Every day when I arrive at my classroom, I look forward to meeting the Zimbrick test. I want to make sure that my students are engaged in real discussion, real learning about social studies. I want them to understand the problem solving that goes into slicing the Gordian knot, apply lessons of the Constitution, and participate in fun, like a Mr. Corbin tea party, where my APUSH students dumped gallons of cold tea all over me at the end of their exam in May. I'm confident that your teacher made a similar impact. Imagine that they weren't there. How does your life change without your teachers, without those people that invested in your life? Our CTE students have been presenting today, and they do amazing things. I love the programs that we provide our students to learn in the state of Wyoming. Thank you for that. And I would just encourage you to remember your teachers, invest in your teachers, because we're investing in your students every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your work. We're right on down that road. I'd like to thank Mr. Corbin for joining us today. I would like to thank all teachers in the state of Wyoming for all of the work they do to educate the children of Wyoming, our greatest resource. It's not often I get somebody here in the gallery from my hometown, Pinedale. He's going to hate me for introducing him, but I'm going to introduce Mike Hinn, who runs our conservation district. And they do a lot of good work here and around the state. So Mike Hinn. Guess I would also like to thank all the conservation districts around the state for all the work they do to help in regards to conservation, in regards to making our industries comply with conservation rules. And so they do everything from monitor water, grass, put in water projects. They do a myriad of things that are very beneficial to the state of Wyoming and to their communities. Chairman Brown,
Privilege to the floor, Mr. Speaker.
please.
So we just heard from the Teacher of the Year for the state of Wyoming, but you will notice if you guys have been around, there's a lot of people upstairs, but unfortunately the Teachers of the Year from your home communities and your home districts are here as well. They are in attendance. They just were not able to find a seat. So I wanted to stand up and give them a round of applause as well. They are out in the gallery. Out here, and if you guys get a chance, go out there and say hey to them and tell them thank you as well.
Once again, welcome teachers of Wyoming. That's a treat. I hope we all get a chance to go out there and say hi to those folks. Let's do reports from standing committees since we've been ignoring that for a while.
House Joint Resolution 3, sponsored by Representative Larson, JT. Support for local input and federal rulemaking. A joint resolution in support of the meaningful state and local government involvement in drafting proposed federal rules. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 9, Minerals, Business, and Economic Development, to whom is referred House Joint 3, support for local input and federal rulemaking. Respectfully report, same back to the House with the recommendation do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Banks, Burkhart, Conrad, Heiner, Knapp, Larson, Tarver, Western. Excused, Representative Lawley. Representative Burkhart, Chairman. House Bill 3, sponsored by Revenue. Property tax exemption for long-term homeowners, an act relating to taxation. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 3, property tax exemption for long-term homeowners. Respectfully report, same back to the House with the recommendation to do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Baer, Byron, Harshman, Locke, Northrup, Oakley, Storer, Strzok, Swanitzer. Representative Harshman, Chairman. House Bill 4, sponsored by Revenue. Property Tax Refund Program, an act relating to property tax. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 4, Property Tax Refund Program. Respectful report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Baer, Byron, Harshman, Locke, Northrup, Oakley, Storer, Strzok, Swanitzer. Representative Harshman, Chairman. House Bill 30, sponsored by Judiciary, Controlled Substance Act, Possession Amendments, an act relating to controlled substances. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 1, Judiciary, to whom is referred House Bill 30, Controlled Substance Act, Possession Amendments. Respectful report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Chestick, Crago, Haroldson, Jennings, Nemec, Oakley, Rodriguez-Williams, Washit. Noes, Representative Provenza. Representative Washit, Chairman. House Bill 31, sponsored by Judiciary, Peace Officers, Records, and Reporting, an act relating to the administration of government. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 1, Judiciary, to whom is referred House Bill 31, Peace Officers, Records, and Reporting. Respectfully report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Chestick, Crago, Haroldson, Jennings, Nemec, Oakley, Provenza, Rodriguez-Williams, Washit. Representative Washit, Chairman. House Bill 45, sponsored by Representative Crago, Property Tax Exemption, Residential Structures, an act relating to taxation. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 45, Property Tax Exemption, Residential Structures. Respectfully report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Baer, Byron, Harshman, Locke, Northrup, Oakley, Storer, Strzok, Swanitzer. Representative Harshman, Chairman. House Bill 64, sponsored by Representative Larson Lloyd. Fire Prevention and Electrical Safety Amendments, an act relating to public health and safety. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred House Bill 64, Fire Prevention and Electrical Safety Amendments, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes. Representatives Chadwick, Haroldson, Harshman, Knapp, Newsom, Olson, Ottman, Wiley, Yin. Representative Olson, Chairman. House Bill 103, sponsored by Representative Allred. Property tax assessment ratio for residential property, an act relating to ad valorem taxation. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 103, Property tax assessment ratio for residential property, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Baer, Byron, Harshman, Locke, Northrup, Oakley, Storer, Strzok, Swanitzer. Representative Harshman, Chairman. House Bill 126, sponsored by Representative Yin. Child care is a residential use of property, an act relating to property. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred House Bill 126. Child care is a residential use of property. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Chadwick, Haroldson, Harshman, Knapp, Newsom, Olson, Ottman, Wiley, Yin. Representative Olson, Chairman. House Bill 134, sponsored by Representative Lawley. Property Tax Deferral Program Amendments, an act relating to property taxes. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 134, Property Tax Deferral Program Amendments, respectfully report same back to the House with a recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Byron, Harshman, Northrup, Oakley, Storer, Zwanitzer. Noes. Representatives Baer, Locke, Strzok. Representative Harshman, Chairman. House Bill 148, sponsored by Representative Lawley. Regulation of surgical abortions, an act relating to public health and safety. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 1, Judiciary, to whom is referred House Bill 148, Regulation of surgical abortions. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Crago, Haroldson, Jennings, Nemec, Oakley, Rodriguez-Williams, Washit. Noes. Representatives Chestick, Provenza. Representative Washit, Chairman. House Bill 154, sponsored by Representative Burkhart. Consumer Rental Purchase Agreement Act Amendments, an act relating to trade and commerce. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom is referred House Bill 154, Consumer Rental Purchase Agreement Act Amendments, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Chadwick, Harshman, Knapp, Newsom, Olson, Ottman, Wiley, Yin. Noes. Representative Harrelson. Representative Olson, Chairman. House Bill 166, sponsored by Representative Clouston. Education Savings Account 1, an act relating to education. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 4, Education, to whom is referred House Bill 166, Education Savings Account 1, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Allred, Andrew, Brown, Clouston, Lawley, Northrup. Noes. Representatives Berger, Obermueller, Provenza. Representative Northrup, Chairman. House Bill 197, sponsored by Representative Harshman. Sales Tax Administration Revisions, an act relating to sales tax. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 197, Sales Tax Administration Revisions. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Baer, Byron, Harshman, Locke, Northrup, Oakley, Storer, Strzok, Zwanitzer. Representative Harshman, Chairman.
Messages from the Senate. What's that? Re-referrals? Chairmans? We should have some re-referrals to committee number 2, probably. Chief, do you got any of those for me to look at? Okay. I'm not seeing any chairman going to the mic to do re-referrals. But I think that would be Vice Chair Oakley, I'm going to guess, is going to have to re-refer perhaps 134 to committee number 2.
Mr. Speaker,
Please.
I would like to re-refer House Bill 134 to Committee Number 2.
Committee number 2. House Bill 134 has been re-referred to Committee number 2 without objection. Now do we have messages from the Senate? All right.
Message 118. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading in an amended form by the vote indicated. Senate File 3, State Employee, Leave for Volunteer Fire or Volunteer EMS. Ayes 28, noes 1, excused 1. Message 119. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading in an amended form by the vote indicated. Senate File 38, Financial Reporting Amendments. 2. Ayes 30, excused 1. Message 120. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading by the vote indicated. Senate File 60, 2024 Large Project Funding. Ayes 26, noes 4, excused 1. Message 121. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading by the vote indicated. Senate File 70, Investment Modernization, State Non-Permanent Funds 2. Ayes 30, excused 1. Message 122. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading in an amended form by the vote indicated. Senate File 90, State-Managed Local Government Equity Investment Pool. Ayes 27, noes 3, excused 1. Message 123. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading in an amended form by the vote indicated. Senate File 9, Parental Rights in Education. 1. Ayes 28, noes 2, excused 1. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson, Senate Chief Clerk.
Just wanted to say, Chairman Harshman left today. You know, when we leave home and come here, we also leave family and pets. And there is a pet of Chairman Harshman's that is in that final stage today, and which is tough. I think we've all been through that deal as well, or most of us. So think about, life goes on, right? And at times people have to go back and do certain things. And so just keep him in your prayers as well. Chief, we still need a little time? We can do second? We're all right with that? All right. We are at that order of business of bills on second reading. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 23. The reading clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 23, sponsored by Representative Larson, J.T. Vehicle registration, e-certificate, and grace period. An act relating to motor vehicles.
House Bill 23, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 24.
House Bill 24, sponsored by Labor. Certificate of Need repeal. An act relating to public health and safety.
House Bill 24, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 25.
House Bill 25, sponsored by Labor. Medicaid third-party payer conditions.
House Bill 25, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 33.
House Bill 33, sponsored by Minerals. Mining operations, blasting requirements.
House Bill 33, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 35.
House Bill 35, sponsored by Minerals. Limitation on environmental rulemaking.
House Bill 35, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 46.
House Bill 46, sponsored by Representative Walters. Chancery Court, timeline for resolution of disputes.
House Bill 46, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, Shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 54.
House Bill 54, sponsored by Representative Washit. Wyoming reads day.
House Bill 54 having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 66.
House Bill 66, sponsored by Representative Brown. Firefighter cancer screening benefits.
House Bill 66 having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 72.
House Bill 72, sponsored by Appropriations. Workers' compensation, provision for adverse deviation.
House Bill 72 having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 73.
House Bill 73, sponsored by Appropriations. Abandoned mine reclamation accounts.
House Bill 73 having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 81.
House Bill 81, sponsored by Representative Banks. Public officer training amendments.
House Bill 81 having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Chief Clerk, how are we doing? Okay. Just stand at ease till the sound of the gavel. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, could you pop up here, please? So members of the 67th, we're still just going to kind of stand at ease. We're trying to get all the bills loaded in the system so we can go into committee of the whole. So that's just a process we have to get done. Kind of the process for today, I think, if the majority floor leader's comfortable with it, we'll resolve into committee of the whole, and then we'll actually rise and report it at noon when we go out. And then when we come back in at 2, we'll be able to read in more standing committee reports, and that will allow the majority floor leader to have more bills in the afternoon. And that'll just kind of speed up our process if we go out of committee at the whole at the end and then resolve back in when we come back at 2. Once we get the system loaded, we'll rock and roll. Representative Berger, could I talk to you for a second? Mr. Majority Floor Leader? So, Mr. Majority Floor Leader, if we do the list that's already here, they're loaded in the system. So why don't you go ahead and resolve us in, and we'll start with the list we have.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House resolve itself into committee of the whole.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Chairman Yin.
The Committee of the Whole will please come to order. 1 second. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 83. The reading clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 83, sponsored by Appropriations. Public Retirement, Actuarially Determined Contributions, an act relating to the public employee retirement. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Bill 83, Public Retirement, Actuarially Determined Contributions. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Henderson, Larson, Nicholas, Sherwood, Stith, Walters, Zwanitzer. Representative Nicholas, Chairman.
You have heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Nicholas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move when the committee whole rise to report, it does with a recommendation that House Bill 83 do pass, and I will turn the explanation over and the amendment to the good representative from Trona County.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring to you, members, House Bill 83. This is the Public Retirement Actuarially Determined Contributions Bill. And as we discussed in the introductory vote, this is really the gold standard of how a public pension should be operated. And so moving into this, it will bring the pension to fully funded 16 years sooner than it will be if we do nothing, or we do it on the current format that we're following of random adjustments based on legislative will. And so what does this bill do in particular? This bill will adjust the rate and limits it to a rate adjustment of happening every 2 years. It limits the size of the rate to not more than 0.5% per 2 year per 2 years. and from the prior 2-year given rate. The rates cannot be decreased below the normal cost. The rates cannot be decreased unless the fund is 99% funded. And the reason we set that at 99% funded is it really becomes kind of awkward if your rate is set and then you hit the 100% funding and the contribution is allowed to go down at that point, and you have this huge drop. It affects the fund in weird ways. And so the ability to start to decrease it as you come into that 99% funding is what I would describe as a smooth landing for that occurring. And then the rates adjustments are split evenly between the employee and the employer. Now, that does not get in the way of if there are employers that do pick up the employee share, they can still continue to do that. It just states that the upfront, that's how it's laid out, similar to how it is today. This is really good for state government as well as local government because it gives a warning of what's coming forward. And so it gives them about 14 months notice as to what the increase will be so they can manage for that. And the other advantage of doing this is these changes happen more in real time to the actuarial need versus the manual increases, which are always behind the need. And these will also be smaller and more consistent increases instead of larger, more dramatic increases. So this, like I said, is really the gold standard. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move Standing Committee Amendment number 1 to House Bill 83 and ask for your favorable consideration. And this is really technical in nature. It comes in on page 16, line 5. We changed the name of the State Budget Office to the State Budget Department. Again, very technical in nature, probably doesn't even need an amendment, but just to follow the process, we did an amendment to make sure that we titled it by the correct name. And so again, ask for your favorable consideration on the Standing Committee Amendment number 1, if we could have any discussion.
Is there any, you've heard the motion on the Standing Committee Amendment. Are you ready for the question? Question having been called, all those in favor of Standing Committee Amendment number 1 to House Bill 83, please say aye. Opposed, no. Standing Committee Amendment number 1 has been adopted. We are back on the bill. Representative Walters, any other follow-up, or should we? Please. So Representative Washit, Chairman Washit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when I came into the body several years ago and we talked about our state pension plans, I asked, when would the plans be actuarially sound? And I was told probably about 30 years. And the importance of that to the people who contact me is that it was that 100% determination that would determine whether or not there would be an eligibility for a cost of living increase for these retired public employees. And then just the other day, Chairman of Committee number 2 told us that the fund would never be available to offer COLAs. And so I'm just wondering, what's the real value of having the plans reach 100% actuarially sound if there's no intention to provide COLAs for retirees?
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a misunderstanding on whether the fund would ever offer COLAs. Statutorily, it says that once it reaches 100% funding, the option is there, and that's been the goal of this body since I've been a member of it, is to try and get these funds to 100% so that COLAs can be offered. Now, the caveat to that is that the statute says 100%, but if you offer a COLA on day 1 when it hits 100%, you're going to pay down to where you're instantly below 100%. And so the goal is really to probably hit 106, 107% so that you can then offer a consistent year after year COLA. So statutory, yes, it's going to be at that 100. But the goal, the absolute goal of this is to hit that funding ratio, funding level, so that a COLA can be offered. And by following this mechanism in House Bill 83, it will get us to that fully funded amount sooner, far sooner than if we continue on the path we're continuing on. So again, I would encourage an aye vote on this bill. This is the absolute gold standard of how to operate these plans. Looking at the 60 plus entities that were surveyed over the last couple of years by our own department as to how they operate, The largest majority of them have moved to this, and the ones that have found funding in short periods. The handful that did not are still lagging behind, and most of those are actually going the opposite direction. We want to be heading upward towards positive 100% funding. The ones that have not adopted a system like this are actually going the opposite direction. So again, this is a great system, good for our public employees, and certainly would take any more questions and encourage an aye vote on the bill.
Majority Whip Western.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Forgive me, I might be a tad confused here. I was wondering if the good appropriator can elaborate. Are we trying to get to 100% of the fund so we can, or get a little above so we can start issuing COLAs? Or are we trying to get to 100 for actuarial soundness? If you could provide some clarity, that would be great.
Representative Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just, I apologize, I know you've probably explained this, and I would like just a little more detail. If you could break this down into a nice, simple, we're adding this much money in these years to get to that. I know that you've probably explained that, and I guess I need a simpler version of that explanation. Thank you.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to the first question, the goal is twofold. Yes, the goal is actuarial soundness of the fund. That is first and foremost. And I want to make sure I'm clear. The fund is currently actuarially sound based on accounting principles, but is not 100% funded. The fund is the big plan is about 77% of being fully funded, which is by all means and by everyone in the industry, that is actuarially sound. But true 100% funding is where you are obviously 100% funded and the soundness level goes up, but it also is at that 100% level that then retired state employees have an option for a COLA, which is important to all of those retired state employees. To the second part of the question, how much money are we talking? That amount is really not determined because we talk in this world in terms of percentages. What is the percentage change of employee and employer contribution? And so in this bill, what it would allow for is a rate of not more than a 0.5% increase every 2 years. And so that 0.5% would then be spread between, the way it's structured, half of the half, so a quarter each to the employee, a quarter to the employer. But the employer is still eligible to pay the employee's share because we don't get into the weeds of how their employment contracts are, because the big plan involves counties, cities, towns, school districts, special districts, the state of Wyoming, all sorts of different employees, and all those different structures are out there doing it a little bit differently. But again, the whole goal of this, if you think about the way that the system works, it's you take the fund, what's it returning in terms of investments, what are the income coming off of it in terms of contributions, and that versus what are the benefits or the liabilities needing to be paid. And that's the equation you're working through. And so this is how you can do it in a more smooth manner, because in the past, and really it comes to the legislature, and since the big plan was structured, the legislature has had to make increases over the last 15 years, but when the legislature reacts, it's always too far behind to make up what is actuarially needed. Whereas doing it this way, the need is demonstrated and you're able to react quickly. And so again, this is just a smoother mechanism, and in doing it this way, we will end up in a better place in a shorter amount of time. So I encourage an aye vote on the bill. Thank you.
Representative Hornock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want the body to be aware, because when we talk about this, sometimes our eyes glaze over a little bit. When we retire, we just want the check, right? But to be clear, we do have a fund for our state employees that is sound. It will reach 100% funding at some point. So the way that you vote on this today will not change that. What we are changing is that the contribution rates that state employees pay will go up if we vote for this. maybe you like that, maybe you don't. If the state employees pay more now, the fund gets fully funded quicker. If we keep the rate as it is right now, then the pension plan, gets funded to 100% a little bit later. But the fund is always there. The fund is sound. The fund is going to be there. But this will increase the contribution rate that our state employees pay. And that rate, it's possible for now, if we vote for this, for that rate to increase 0.5% every 2 years. So what happens in 10 years? What happens in 20 years as they pay in? Their rate could increase. Now, it's up to the body to make this determination of whether or not they want that to happen. But just to be clear, we have a fund that is sound. It's not that by not voting for this today, our pension plan in the future is not going to be there for our state employees. The management team is doing a great job managing that fund. It's just, when do we want 100% funding for this? So just to be clear to the body of what we're really voting on, we're voting to increase the contribution rates that our state employees have to pay. Thank you.
Representative Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to be thick, but just making sure I understand that, then really, if I understand what was said before, if the previous speaker was accurate, the impact to our budgets, our state budgets, the money that comes into the state is, as this increases, as the percentage allowed to be contributed by the employees, as that increases, the impact to the state money is where we are contributing for the employees. Is that an accurate statement? I'm just trying to make sure I understand where the money is and where the money flows. I just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to push back on the statement that this bill is an automatic increase to employee contributions. This bill is not an automatic increase to employee contributions. This bill is a different way of doing business about how we determine when increases are necessary and when increases are needed. And so this bill allows the WRS, and I think I can say it because they're in here as we always discuss, to make those determinations based on an actuarial analysis of what are the fund's needs going forward. It also limits them to where they cannot raise it if the need arises any more than 0.5% in any given 2 years. But the statement that this is an automatic increase is actually incorrect. This is only the opportunity, if it is needed, to make adjustments in a timely manner. Now, to the question about how does it impact state budgets, yes, if there is an increase if it is determined the increase is necessary, then there will be a corresponding increase in each state agency budget to pay for the employee or employer share, because we, the state, are the employer of those various employees that we're discussing. So there will be a corresponding increase in state budget if needed, because we are the employer. We, the state, are the employer. What is that amount? It's not known because we don't know what the change will be. Now, the legislature has made in bills in past years, the legislature has made changes, and that is the other model, it's determined that a change is needed. And just a couple years ago, we had a bill that over 2 years, we increased it, I think, 2%. That is a dramatic increase, 1% a year over 2 years. That's hard for employers and employees to swallow. And we have to remember, employers are all the school districts, cities, towns, counties, special districts out there that suddenly have to contribute more on the employer side of this plan because the state made a change. Going to this model, and this is why I'm so excited about this model, it gives those employers a 14-month forward look as to what the changes will be if the changes are necessary, so they can plan for it. And it also gives the employee a far smaller increase at a more regular interval if needed, to where it is a lot easier on the employee in terms of what's taken out of their paycheck. And so again, this is a win-win for the employer, the employee, and for the system. Again, I encourage an aye vote on House Bill 83.
Representative Ottman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, or Chairman. Thank you. Okay. Just a couple questions. It's a long bill. And at first look, I was thinking, okay, it is about Wyoming retirement only. And so if I understand, in fact, if you would explain what COLA means, because there's a lot of people that aren't employed by the state. The other thing that I'm wondering about is that, and you said rightly that as these amounts go up, so does the state's requirement, because these are state employees, so it's and state retirement. But what I'm wondering about as well is in the amounts of the classification and distribution for the state of Wyoming, the universities, the school districts, the counties, and other, to get that 100%, that's on the last page, the fiscal, comes to 10.3 million. Is that biannually? Is that looking, what is that looking at? And also I was wondering, there's talk in here of the charter schools, the ADM, and then also special education, and also the stock, the branding board. And I'm just wondering, is that to delineate the different agencies, or how is that all in one bill? Thank you.
Speaker Pro Tem Stith.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Please vote aye on House Bill 83. This is a truly conservative bill. Pension benefits, they're not welfare, they're not charity. The employees earn these. And the beauty of this bill is that it puts the system on an even keel. Right now, it's only 76% funded, and this trends it up to 100% by 2048. Why is that a good thing? You remember just 2 years ago how we had to rescue the Firefighter A pension fund because it was underfunded. We ended up having to spend $75 million of general fund money to rescue that fund. Because, and why did we have to do that? We had to do that because the contributions that the legislature had set, because the legislature would just pick a number, your contribution will be X%, was not actuarially sound. What this bill does is it makes sure that we'll never have a Firefighter A problem again. And this is good, conservative problem solving. Please vote aye.
I do remember that, Speaker Pro Tem. Representative Walters, anything to add? Chairman Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit more background because it's just a useful thing. At 76% funded, we have a $2.8 billion basically deficit. So if we went to a major recession and it lasted 5 years, that fund will be in real trouble again. It's just that simple. Why is it that simple? Because the current payout that we pay to state employees does not, if we are in a recession, will not, we spend more than we take in. And so this whole progression is basically catching up with where we are. Since I've been in the legislature, 3 times we've modified the benefits. One of them was a major change where we basically separated the funds. And so you have the pre-2008 folks and you have the post-2008 folks, and then we did it again where we changed the benefits. And basically the benefits were reduced for the folks going forward. Why did we do that? Because we were paying out even back then even more benefits than we were paying in. And it's an interesting story because in the old days, the retirement board was made up of all state employees, and all they wanted to do, obviously, is give them more benefits to more state employees. And we're just talking about the big fund here now. So as a result, in 2004, it was literally taking a nosedive. And so we had to come up with $150 million just to shore up the fund because the actuaries back then said we could pay out greater benefits. So this has been a transition, and we've gotten more and more sophisticated with our investments. We've broadened the ability of what those dollars can be invested in. So now that fund is a $10 billion fund, and it's, it's just remarkable. It was one of the top performing funds in the United States in the last 3 years. So we are riding this ship. This bill, it was brought to us by the retirement system saying this is the way we should do it so that we keep this on an even keel and we keep moving in the right direction. And so this is not our idea. I mean, the appropriations idea. This is the retirement board's idea because now that they have more professionals and they're doing it in a wiser, smarter way and making more money. So this is, so to say that if we leave it alone, we're going to be actuarially sound in 35 years or 40 years, that doesn't mean anything. Because the more money you put in the front, the easier it is to make it actuarially sound at the further end, and the softer landing we get to add for everybody. If we have 3 recessions in the next 15 years, we're going to have to be putting money in the fund or we're going to have to drop benefits. That's also reality. They don't tell you that side of the story, but that is what has happened in the past, and it will happen again. So you just got to see the whole thing in a big picture, and what this does, it makes it so we don't have to stand on this floor every 3 years and say, doggone it, we've got to add more contributions, it's going to cost the state more money. This takes care of that problem. And the actuaries come in each year with new numbers based upon the prior 5 years and life expectancies and all those things, and none of them state employees. And by the way, right now, if you look in the budget, we kick in about $2.7 million for retirees that are pre-2008 because we have an underlying obligation to them, which we don't even talk about. So the fact we actually do help those folks that are pre-2008 because that's a commitment we made when we did our restructuring of the retirement board. So just more information, and if you'd like to learn more about it, I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you if you have questions.
Representative Ottman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just have a comment. Thank you to the Chair of Appropriations for all that information. But what I'm thinking and what I'm remembering from what we just heard about Plan A and Plan B is something that I am concerned about with, for example, we get everything funded to that amount and then we say, well, we don't need it now. And so we'll give it to another fund, and then they come back the next year and say, oh, well, we need that money now. And so just to keep things on board, because the one that we're talking about today is a wonderful fund. They've done good investments and stuff. But I'm just wondering if this is, when this was put into place, if it's not guaranteeing that it's going to be sound, and if it really isn't working the way that it was planned to do, how can we say if we fund it 99%, I think that's what I heard you say, it'll keep and it will never be 100%. So I'm just kind of wondering the direction of it and how it's going to be growing and growing, and if there's going to be any limit. Because if we invest all this money and get, say, 130%, are we then going to distribute that amongst just the retirement, or how's that going to work? Anyway, I'm sorry to ask so many questions, but this is a big deal. And also, if you would say what COLA is. Thank you.
Representative Walters, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. COLA is not the fizzy drink that we're going to have with our cheeseburger at lunch. COLA is cost of living adjustment.
So that's what it is. The way the system is structured statutorily is we have to be 100% funded before a COLA, a cost of living adjustment, may be offered to any retiree in the big plan. And we are talking about the big plan here, which comes to the next question that was asked a few moments ago. If you look at the fiscal note, it shows that of the folks grouped here in the big plan, you have state of Wyoming employees are about 22.8% of the members in the big plan. The school over the university over the hill and our community colleges are about 6.9, we'll call it 7% of the big plan. School districts are 48% of the big plan. Counties, municipalities are 14% of the big plan. And all others, which are special districts and whatnot, are about 7.5% of the big plan. That's how many employees, the percent of employees into that plan. So, for example, the state has about 22.8% of the total number of employees in the big plan. Now, based on the date of this fiscal note, which that is a big deal because that will change month to month as employees are hired and employees retired. But based on the date of this fiscal note, if this were in place and under the assumption of a 0.5% increase, which is the most allowable in this bill in any given 2 years, the retirement system put the calculation together for illustration purposes only, that if you were to have a 0.5% increase, it would result in a total increased contribution. This is not a cost, this is revenue to the fund, to grow the fund, of approximately, total, if you took all of them, it's approximately a $10.3 million increase to the fund. But it would cost the state of Wyoming based on the point in time, because remember, as employees come in and out, this number will fluctuate slightly. But the employer's share, so the state of Wyoming, being our 22.8% of this fund, would cost the state about $1.2 million of increased cost as we pay the employer's share of what the retirement contribution would become at that point. That's all on the assumption of a 0.5% increase over the 2-year period, which is the max allowable in this bill. I will go back to this bill is just, I started out saying it and I can't say it enough. This is the gold standard of how to operate these systems. Now to the other question of, will this fund just grow in perpetuity to forever and ever and get so large? No. Because once the fund is at 100% funding level, the option for that cost of living adjustment comes into play. And so then the system will review and make sure that they remain actuarially sound, and then they will start to make adjustments in the benefits to the retirees to make sure that the fund stays at a stable, above 100% funding ratio, while still allowing for some cost of living changes, some increased benefits to the retirees. So they will manage that fund to make sure that it stays stable and providing the benefits to the retirees as allowed by law. So this is a great plan, great approach to operating. Again, I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Ottman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Co-Chairman. One more question. Are all of these funds, because as state employees, that's a cost to the state, and that's what we're seeing here with this 10 million. As state employees, but also the employer, all of that will be coming. Is all of this, and I'm sure that's probably very known to you, but will this always be coming out of the general fund?
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's get back and be clear. The 10 million is not everybody. The 10 million includes school districts, the university, counties, municipalities, all of which have different funding streams. Cities and towns, other than our direct distribution, have their own taxing systems. So the 10 million is the total of everyone in the plan under the assumption of a 0.5% increase. This is for illustration purposes only so that we can have a feel for what it might look like. The state, the only state contribution that we're discussing is the 1.2 million employer share that would be in this situation would be the increase. But this bill does not guarantee there will be a 0.5% increase. It says there will be no more than a 0.5% increase in any 2 years based on the actuarial needs of the plan. And so that's what, to the question. And then there was a question earlier and a comment made about concern that funds in this would be used to pay for funds and other pensions that we have, Fire A to Fire B. Legally, the funds cannot be swapped between plans. We can't take Fire A plan money and put it in Fire B. We can't take the law enforcement and warden's plan and put it over in the big plan legally. That's just not even something that can be done. Each of these plans, the money within those plans are managed individually for the goals of each individual plan. The funds are never commingled. They are all managed separately because that is what the legal requirement is. So there is no risk of stealing from one plan to pay off another because you legally cannot do that, both state, federal, and everywhere else in between. So again, I'll ask for an aye vote. This is really a great thing for the people of Wyoming.
Representative Stivar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around this. Approximately, because we just gave the state employees a pay raise, approximately how much, are they going to have to pay out of that 1% out of their check for this? Do we have an estimate on that?
Representative Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So pensions are a defined benefit plan, and 401ks are a defined contribution. Now, is there any thought to moving new employees? So we keep our promises to the folks that are on the pension plan, but is there any thought to moving new employees to a defined contribution plan like a 401k so that we don't have to keep being concerned about how to keep a pension funded? I say this for two reasons. The funding reason is the number one, and secondly, as a private individual working for a private company, as an employee, I would prefer to manage my own retirement than trust a government to do it.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To answer the last question first, the discussion has came up. The transition is what becomes the largest issue, and the reason it's an issue is because part of how you make the plan work is with the existing employee contributions into the plan, and so transitioning it becomes a difficult task. Not to say that I disagree with the good speaker. I think it is. As somebody that I'm 100, personally, I pay for 100% of my retirement, so this affects me zero. I've had to plan for it, and I'm happy to do so. But it's just a transition that becomes difficult to go from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan. Other than that, the comments are good. As to the question about how much percentage change based on the pay increases that were received, that is something that cannot be known because the pay increases were not even across the board. We didn't give a 50% pay increase, and I'm being very dramatic here because I want to make sure this is an illustration. There was not an even 50% increase in pay across the board. There was a pay increase that was merit-based, and because of that, and merit-based plus to get individuals to market-level pay. And because of that, some individuals may have seen a 2% increase, and some individuals may have seen a 10% increase. And so how this would affect each individual employee with 7,000 employees, it's just really a task that no one would ever know. And then it comes back to every month we're always having more employees coming in and employees retiring. And so I don't think we could ever really calculate that unless you wanted to sit down and see exactly, unless you're the state employee, and then they can calculate it for you, and the system will calculate it for you if you ask that of the system. So I'm trying to get these questions answered, and I'll go back to, I ask for an aye vote on this bill. This is the gold standard. This is the best way to manage these kind of funds for stability, security, and planning purposes.
I will say I don't mind, but we are at over 30 minutes on this one bill. Representative Pendergrass.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just for clarification in my own mind, when we say employer contribution, aren't we actually saying taxpayer contribution?
Representative Knapp.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'll make it quick. So one question I had was on the COLA adjustment. Is that determined by the board? And did I hear you say there's a cap on COLA adjustments? I get concerned a lot of plans, what ends up ruining them is either poor investment or change in benefits. So that COLA adjustment is key, and once we fund it 100%, I realize that probably won't kick in till later, but that's one thing that can really ruin a plan.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great question, and that's the purpose of having the plan 100% funded, to even be able to offer the opportunity for a COLA. If it's not to that level of funding, the opportunity isn't there, and that's what prevents it, and that's in law. That's what prevents it from becoming a problem and going negative. To the question about the employee, is the taxpayer not the employer? No, we have the proprietary right and an inherent right, and so the proprietary right of the state is we become almost like a private entity at that point, and so the state of Wyoming becomes the direct employer, not the taxpayer. No, the state employee does not work for the taxpayer. They work for the entity that provides the service on behalf of the state of Wyoming. And so I would disagree that that's one and the same, because there is a differential there. The state becomes an entity of itself at that point. And so that would be my little pushback on that one. Again, vote aye on this bill. It really is good for all involved, both the employee and the employers that are part of the big plan. It creates stability, it creates consistency, and it's, as I started out saying, it's the gold standard. With that, I'd call for the question.
Question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Nicholas's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill number 83 do pass. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. House Bill 83 has passed committee of the whole. Before we go to the next bill, we have a privilege of the floor from Representative Crago, please.
Privilege of the floor, Mr. Chairman.
All yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to direct your attention to the south balcony up here. We have our state 4-H leadership team, and I'm going to introduce them. And when we're done, we'll give them a round of applause. We have Timber Eckley from Hot Springs County, Sarah Moritz from Laramie County, Katie Morrison from Park County, Court Bannon from Niobrara County, Curtis Mickey from Park County, Stephanie Gray from Campbell County, and Grace Hinton from Sheridan County, your future leaders of Wyoming right there.
Thank you, Representative Crago, and thank you all for the work that you guys do, and I hope you enjoy watching the process unfold here on the floor. So the next bill for our consideration is House Bill number 90. The reading clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 90, sponsored by Representative Rodriguez Williams. Newborn child, safe havens, age of child, an act relating to children. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 1 Judiciary, to whom is referred House Bill 90, newborn child, safe havens, age of child, respectfully report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Chestick, Haroldson, Jennings, Nemec, Rodriguez Williams, Washit. Noes, Representative Provenza. Absent, Representative Crago and Representative Oakley. Representative Washit, Chairman.
You have heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman? Maybe Vice Chairman Rodriguez Williams? Would you like to make the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move House Bill 90 and I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 90 do pass, and there is a standing committee amendment.
So, Vice Chair, please just move the standing committee amendment and then go for the explanation.
I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 90 do pass, and further move the adoption of the standing committee amendment. The standing committee amendment
from committee number 1, amended the date of age to up to 180 days. That is the change.
Any discussion on the bill? Vice Chair Larson?
My question is, did you ever consider changing that to 16 years? That seems to be the time some of us would really like to give them guys up.
Representative Conrad.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how to follow that up. Specifically, my question is, when does this end? Does it go to 190 days? I mean, what happened? I think we start, my question is the evolution here. Does it end at, are we in agreement that it ends at 180 days? And I guess I need some medical understanding, or I'm supportive of the bill, obviously, but I just didn't understand, when does this timing end in terms of what age? And more importantly, to reinforce a good representative from the center of the state, when does it? I mean, we could debate that now at 16 years of age.
Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as we looked at this, 2 states go all the way up to 1 year old, and the state directly to the east of us goes to 18 years of age. I'm not joking. So 2 states are 1 year old, 1 state is 18 years of age, and we see 30 days, we see 60 days, we see it's all over the map. So the reality is we chose 180 in the fact that we felt this would be an opportunity to address postpartum concerns and issues. What we want to take is we want to protect a child from being abandoned in a way that could potentially put them into harm's way. In this case, we put them into the arms of a loving individual.
Vice Chair Rodriguez-Williams, anything to add? Nope. Okay. Vice Chair Larson?
I'd appreciate, I was going to bring this up a little later because I heard on the introductory a reference to postpartum, this too. So if you could help me understand that postpartum aspect in this whole conversation and the impact maybe that postpartum has and who that impacts and for how long, maybe is that important in this 180 day conversation?
Representative Penn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that the 180 days is a very reasonable time frame. Talking about the postpartum depression and such. You know, last year we passed a bill to expand postpartum care. Prior to that expansion, we had postpartum Medicaid for women to 60 days. And the reason for that is because that time frame is a very fragile time for a woman. It may be. Also, if someone is struggling with health issues or mental health issues or those types of things, it may take them a little bit of time to get out of their house or make connections where they may then actually get in with the state to follow up to then relinquish their child. And within that time frame, it seems like it would be more likely that someone who potentially could be unstable or unsafe with their child, they may have a better likelihood of just dropping that baby in a place where they feel it's going to be safe, but they may not have the wherewithal or the resources or access to be able to get into a state facility and go about things in that way. So I would ask for your support on this bill. Thank you.
Representative Zwanitzer on the amendment.
Well, thank you, Chairman Yin. The amendment is pretty much the whole bill. My issue, and what I guess I want to know if the Judiciary Committee studied this and considered, you're not actually changing the current language, you're changing the definition of a newborn in 1411-102, but it actually impacts the entire act of what a newborn child is and what the ramifications are around a newborn being relinquished when it comes to child abuse, when it comes to neglect, when it comes to any other number of issues that you could be, the parent could be liable, prosecuted for. And so it doesn't make sense to me, A, to define a newborn as an up to a 6-month-year-old. That's just problematic, because I think we all know a newborn is not a 5-month-old. But the problem in doing that is you've released a whole lot of liability off of that parent, and maybe in many cases that's good, but I don't think in all cases it is. So I'd like to know if the Judiciary Committee actually studied all the procedures and what it means to change a definition without fixing the rest of the legislation in this section.
Minority Whip Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The answer to that question is no, we did not discuss that. And there wasn't really much discussion of why this necessarily makes sense. There were 5 cases that have come up in the last however many years that have been used under the current statute. Their DFS did not have any evidence to support whether we should extend that or not.
Representative Ottman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we're looking at here is extending the days. Last year, it was a big deal to extend postpartum from 60 days to a year. And over and over and over and over again, we heard that a woman needs that time to figure out things, to get to a point where she will look for help, to look for avenues to help her. What this is doing is saying that that woman now will have that time rather than being unable to have any help. She'll be able to say, rather than a week or 2 or 5 or 10, that up to 6 months, whether it be financial, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, whether it be whatever it is, that she has that opportunity to do what's right and to have that child in a place of safety without regret. So I would ask that you vote aye on this.
Representative Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So some people have made the argument in the past that if we're pro-life, we need to support the baby after it's born. Well, this bill does just that, except we're not calling on the government to do it. So I don't see why this is not a no-brainer.
Vice Chair Larson.
So I think the conversation is getting a little bit tangled between the mother's needs and the action that takes place, if I understand it correctly, and please correct me, but this is giving that child up and taking it to someplace they can, and I'm not making a judgment call, but then they can leave that child at a hospital, a fire station, or one of these places, and without any negative ramifications of being judged or anything else, it's not daycare. They're giving that child up, and I think there's a period of, is there not a period of time? Then they have to do that. So I don't think we're trying to argue the circumstances or the rationale on why the mother is doing it, but does it need to be 180 days versus the 60 days that was proposed? So just my thoughts.
Representative Vollerman.
Thank you, Mr. For thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. I would like to ask for Rule 12-4, a recorded vote on this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Representative Alleman, that is out of order because we're in committee of the whole and we're not in normal session. Just as any other committee of the whole vote, you're welcome to call for a standing division vote. And then I believe if the division fails, there is a roll call vote. but only if the standing division vote fails. Representative Brown, Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess ultimately, been listening to this discussion, I am trying to figure out what problem we're trying to solve. I heard the bill explained. I've yet to hear any explanation of why we need this bill and why we need to have this discussion out here on the floor. Is this a problem that has been occurring regularly, that we have seen 15, 16, 17 days, that this person is now wanting to give up their child and they're not able to give up their child? I'm honestly asking because to me, it seems like we're making a pretty extraordinary change from 14 days to 6 months old. I'm just trying to figure out what problem it is that we're actually trying to solve for the state of Wyoming. Thank you.
Chairman Washit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the problem is this. We live in a very complicated society where we have lots of challenges for new parents. We have substance abuse that's rampant. We have drug abuse issues affecting the health of the child at birth. You've got just a myriad of challenges, economic as well as physical. And when that newborn child comes along and adds a new dimension to all of those stressors facing the new parent, it's hard to predict when, at what point, does that become overwhelming and the parent decides, I need to give up this child. I can't take this. I can't handle this. And so rather than having that parent either left in a quandary or choosing some other negative aspect of how to abandon the child, we want to extend the provisions of Title 14 here to allow, or Chapter 14, to allow this parent to relinquish that child into a safe haven. And across the country, there have been older children relinquished in this manner. Not here because we don't have the legal allowance for it. But if we stop and think about the challenges facing those new parents, it's not out of the realm of possibility that that parent makes the decision to abandon the child sometime later than just 14 days. And with respect to the language change of definition, Chapter 14 is pretty short, and it's all about the safe haven. So the impact of changing the definition from 14 days to 60 days is only present in this one chapter and does not have wide-ranging impacts in my understanding of the statute. Thank you.
Representative Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess I'd like to push back on that, and that's one of my concerns, is that Title 14 is very comprehensive as far as juveniles, and it a wide variety of departments, that criminal actions. The words aren't coming to me. It seems to be a problem today. But anyway, no, Title 14 is very comprehensive as to everything that deals with juveniles. So not only what problem, if we're asking what problem we're solving, which we keep discussing about the safe havens, but what my concern is how we're trying to do it here, which is changing the definition of newborn from 14 days to a 6-month-old. I mean, a 6-month-old isn't a newborn. So how we're trying to get at a problem, I don't think we're doing it here. I think we're doing it incorrectly. If we want to have, so what I've heard as far as the discussion, if this wants to be a carve out for a safe haven, then we need to just write that statute. But the idea of changing the definition of newborn for the entirety of Title 14, I do not think is the right way to go about this.
Representative Trujillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to give an example, excuse me, of real quick of why this is very important. I had a friend who had a baby, and not immediately, a couple months after she had this baby, She got pregnant again. On her 7 months into pregnancy, the father of her 2 children died. And she never got to deal with after her first baby, the postpartum part of it. And then she's going into her second child. And 4 months after she had this baby, feeling hopeless because she didn't think she had anybody, she burned herself alive. And had she had help to give these kids away to somebody, a loving family, maybe that would have saved her and her kids from having that in their life. Thank you.
Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think we're kind of getting off topic here. The focus is safe haven. The time qualification, we can think about that, and definitions certainly do matter at times. There's no question at all there. But I think we probably all know somebody who has special needs kid, and that child is not a newborn, but maybe will never develop past a certain age. I don't think we should be hung up on that. The thing is that we're trying to provide safe haven so that that child that if for whatever reason is not wanted or cannot be dealt with emotionally, whatever the reason, we're trying to provide a place here where there's safe haven for that child and for that parent. I'm kind of at a quandary that we've shifted and tried to move over to other parts of that statute. The focus should be here on the safe haven part for the parent and the child.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the calls for the question, but we're making very serious decision here on what we're doing. And I'm searching through 1411. You start this out and it says 1411-101, purpose and intent. The purpose of this act is to provide to a parent, the parent of a newborn child. That means to relinquish the child so the child may be cared for and protected in a safe haven, as the previous speaker was just talking about. But then the very next thing that you start to go into in 1411-102 is the definitions that we're changing here. But the first one that comes up that kind of grabs my attention is abuse. And it talks about the abuse in 14.3.202. And then you also have neglect, which is right down there, 14.3.202. And we start getting into this discussion of as soon as a parent decides to do this, they're basically immune from neglect and abuse. So this is not just changing a day period of what we currently have is 14 days and just extending that out. The current amendment says to 180 days. All of this boils down to the understanding that we have far-reaching impacts on what we're doing with this, Mr. Chairman. This is not just changing a time frame and just saying, well, we feel good about this because now we can have people turn their babies in. They basically become immune from charges being pressed on them for neglect and abuse if they do it within this 180 days. I don't know if that's the message I want to send.
Chairman Dwanitzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the message we're trying to send is the amendment probably is not in the correct place for the how all of 1411 works together. So I guess I would encourage you to vote no on the amendment, keep the bill as is. When we get to second reading, we can spend some time and work through the issues that some of us are seeing. Because again, when this newborn is turned in, you don't know their birthday. And so it's one thing in the first 7 days, most of us know what a newborn is. You could get away and turn a 9-month-old in and say, well, we don't know their birthday. We don't know exactly how old they're old, especially if they're malnourished, right? Been neglected some. That area gets pretty broad. So I would encourage you to vote no on the amendment, yes on the bill, and I bet we can get it to where it needs to be by third reading.
Is there any other, Chairman Washut.
Just so we're clear, this definition applies to Chapter 11 of Title 14, and it only applies to this act. And this act is defined as 1411-101 through 1411-109. So this definition only applies to that narrow range of statutory language. I hope that helps.
Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as I hear this argument, I hear that we feel the need or the compulsion to go after the parent in that 180-day span. And by golly, maybe we better make that child hopefully survive through that 180 days so we can get that parent. I'm for getting that child out of there and give them a safe.
Question being called on the Standing Committee Amendment number 1. All those in favor of Standing Committee Amendment number 1 say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Standing Committee Amendment number 1 has failed. Division having been called. All those in favor of Standing Committee Amendment number 1, please stand. All those opposed, please stand. (29 to 29), the amendment has failed. We are back on the bill. Question on the bill. Question being called. All those in favor of Representative Rodriguez-Williams' motion that when the Committee of the Whole rise to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 90 do pass. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 90 has passed Committee of the Whole. So one reminder, everybody. So we have third reading of the budget bill tomorrow. Please get all of your budget amendment requests for third reading by 5 p.m. today. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Minority Floor Leader. I move that the House rise and report.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
The reading clerk will read the Committee of the Whole report.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole, having had under consideration bills on general file, begs leave to report as follows. House Bill 83, do pass amended. House Bill 90, do pass. Representative Yin, Chairman.
Chairman Yin.
I move that when the Committee of the Whole, Mr. Chairman.
I move
Mr. Speaker,
adoption.
I move adoption of the Committee of the Whole report.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Chairman's Yin. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, you made Yeah, you need to make another motion now. Yep, to recess. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand on recess until 2 p.m.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, we'll stand at recess until 2 p.m.
Committee announcements.
Yes, committee announcements, if you insist, Chairman Newsom.
Your committee number 6, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources will meet right now. Grab your lunch and come down to our room E5. We will be discussing House Bill 165, access points on state lands study, and then we will talk about interim topics. Thanks.
Anybody else? Chairman Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 1 will meet at 8 o'clock Wednesday morning tomorrow to hear House Bill 125, House Bill 131.
Chairman Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your House Appropriations will meet on adjournment, and the 301, we will hear House Bill 96, House Bill 75, and referrals 36, 60, and 79.
Chairman Northrup.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 4 will meet tomorrow at noon upon adjournment, and we'll hear one bill, House Bill 175, and then we will talk interim topics.
Chairman Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your House Corporations Committee will meet tomorrow upon noon recess to hear 2 bills, House Bill 89 and House Bill 38.
Vice Chair Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee to Revenue would request to re-refer House Bill 103 to Committee number 2.
Without objection, House Bill 103 is re-referred to Committee number 2 Appropriations. Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are, your House Committee number 8, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs is going to meet in about 15 minutes, so grab yourself some food. And we're going to hear one bill, House Bill 86.
All right, we will stand at recess.